This is Miriam Raftery with East County Magazine, and today I'm interviewing Mark Papenfuss, who's one of the 6 candidates running for the La Mesa City Council meeting. Mark had a family emergency recently when we did the candidate forum, wasn't able to be there, but he's been gracious enough to join us today. So Mark, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for working with me, and I do appreciate it.
Well, we're happy that this worked out. So I'd like to start by just asking you to tell us a little bit about yourself. Why are you running for the La Mesa City Council? What are your qualifications? And what do you most hope to accomplish if you're elected?
Well, first off, let me say thank you to you and the East County Magazine for organizing this meeting. It's a very unusual time with everything going on. I also want to thank everyone who's watching and listening to this and taking the time to participate in things like this, because it shows people have a true love and concern for the city of La Mesa, and that means that you and I have something in common. So with that being said, hi, my name is Mark Papenfuss. I'd like to be your newest member of the La Mesa City Council. I'm just a normal guy. I've had ties to the La Mesa area for over 25 years now. I know firsthand the struggles of trying to raise a family in the city. Like many of you, I'm frustrated in the path the city has taken, especially over the last 4 years, where I've watched us, almost lose the beloved farmers market and all the deals being made to developers, having the buildings burned down during a riot in our beautiful downtown village. I've watched countless city council meetings, and I've attended town halls back when they were actually town halls. And I've long wondered why the voice of the people of La Mesa was not being listened to. I have no political ties here. People may try to tell you that's a bad thing, but I think it's a good thing, because what that means is my only obligation is to the people of La Mesa. Vote for me is not only just to vote for me, but to vote for the people of La Mesa. I don't have to listen to corporations. I don't have to listen to developers. All I have to do is listen to the people of La Mesa.
Very good. As you mentioned, Mark, La Mesa has been the target of protests over police action and racial justice issues, and then they suffered that devastating riot in late May where there was looting and 3 buildings burned down.
Yeah.
What do you believe needs to be done to address concerns over racial justice, what the protesters were worried about, and police actions in this increasingly diverse population, while also making sure that the police are able to protect public safety and not have another riot?
Yeah, I truly believe the police should be the pillar of the community. They should have the trust of the people. They should always act in the best interest of the people. I think we have a great opportunity now with the new police chief coming in to really try to work with that police chief, whoever we hire, to make sure they're open to feedback. They're open to, community feedback. They're being transparent. They're really trying to be part of the community. There's a lot of work to do from the top down, and I think this is really a good opportunity for that to happen. There's been a lot of different reports that have come out recently showing, the targeting being done, the use of force incidents not being looked into. And I think, with the police oversight committee that we're trying to start up, I think that's a great start. I'd like to have them, call these things out on the use of force reports, have those looked into, so that transparency is there, the accountability is there. Because right now, I don't think the accountability or the transparency has been there in the past, and I think that's really what led us to where we were. That path, it wasn't a short path; it was a long path that we took over many years. But I think we have a great opportunity to change that and to make great changes within the police force.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The burning of the banks and the closure of some businesses downtown has been tragic, but it also presents redevelopment opportunities. I know you've talked about rising from the ashes, helping the city to do that. Can you give us some specifics on what you think about that? I know we've seen ideas floated that have included everything from a town square with outdoor dining, more housing or mixed-use development, maybe that long-promised library, or even a new home for the farmers market, or just more parking. So tell us what you think should be done in terms of downtown redevelopment.
I think we should do everything we can to help businesses come back to La Mesa, especially the village. I love the village. The village is really what made me fall in love with La Mesa, that small town charm. As far as more development goes in the village, I'm really against that. Parking it's rare downtown. It's one of the main things people complain about going to the village. That's one of the reasons they delayed the farmers market, and they really stripped down the farmers market from what it could be, was because of parking. So I think the city public lot that we have, that needs to stay. If we can't control private land, that's not something the city can really control, who buys and sells it, but we can control the land that the city owns. So I think we shouldn't be selling any city land. We should be putting a downtown library in there that was promised to the people a long time ago. That's very important to me to get that accomplished, to make parking as easy as could be to find. I know if you have to drive around looking for parking, most people are just going to leave and go someplace else. So that's not what I want. I want people to come downtown to the village, find a parking spot, have dinner, do some shopping, things like that. So expanding the farmers market, I think, is also important. Really can be much bigger and better than what it is now. I want to give a spot to the local businesses within the farmers market, so people not in the village, they can come and promote their business and really help the city grow. More small businesses are very important to me. And I think La Mesa has lost a lot of small businesses, and it's been going on for a long time. I think it's been going on since before COVID hit. So you really can't blame COVID on the loss of all these businesses. Yes, COVID has hit us hard, but it's not all to blame. It's been going on long before that. So that's something I really want to focus on.
Okay. The housing shortage and homelessness are two problems in our region. Let's start with housing in general. How would you balance the state requirements for more housing, especially affordable housing, versus those who are concerned about retaining character of communities and making sure there's enough parking? And can you also specifically include your views about height limits with regard to housing projects?
Yeah, definitely. I think the height limits are very important to start with that. I don't want us, downtown San Diego is a good example of really tall buildings, and I don't like that. I don't ever want us to be like downtown San Diego. I think the height limits in the village, the 2 stories, that's fine. If you go further out, I think maybe 4 or 5 would be the limit as far as what I would like to see. I don't want huge buildings. It's not a good fit for the community. It brings parking issues, it brings traffic issues, and one thing that no one really talks about is the schools. La Mesa has a higher than average student per teacher ratio. You bring in more apartments to the area, that's just going to get worse, and that's something that's going to hurt the kids. And a lot of people may say, I don't mind if they build an apartment building over there. That doesn't affect me. The parking over there doesn't affect me. I'm over here in this part of La Mesa. But anyone with kids, anyone with grandkids, nieces, nephews, whatever, the schooling will be affected. Building lots of new apartments in La Mesa will negatively affect kids, which will affect them the rest of their lives. I don't think La Mesa has a shortage of housing. Go on Fletcher Parkway, El Cajon, La Mesa border, you drive down Fletcher Parkway, there's literally apartments all the way down to the freeway. And even if you go past the freeway, there's still apartments. It's solid apartments. I don't think there's a housing shortage. I think what we have is an affordability shortage.
Yeah.
These new apartment complexes are being proposed where there's 50 units and maybe 4 of them, maybe 5 are affordable. And we're being told that this is a good thing. I don't think building a 50-unit complex with fewer than 50 parking spaces with 4 units that are affordable, that's not a good thing. That's not really helping anybody. That's something I want to go away from. If they want to build apartment complexes, I want to see as many of those units be as affordable as possible.
Oh, that might be my tech guy. Just a minute.
Okay.
East Sky Magazine, this is Miriam. Hi, Tim. Hang on just a minute. I was in a Zoom meeting, but I'm going to ask them if I can continue it another time here so I can take your call. Unless you're good with calling me back in 15 minutes, which would you prefer? 15 minutes is great. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye. Awesome. Okay, we'll have to edit this out, but that's my
I knew
computer
this
is
would
running
have
slow
happened
as
like right in the
molasses. I
middle of
had to
it.
take my tech support call.
That's fine.
Okay,
You're fine.
on homelessness, I don't know if you're familiar with the latest wrinkle that we just heard about last night,
Oh yeah.
Mark, but are you familiar with that? About this, for listeners who may not, or viewers who may not know, while La Mesa's been taking steps to try to address homelessness with a task force and some other actions, the state has stepped in now in the county, and they've come up with this proposal that supervisors actually voted on without telling anybody who lives in La Mesa about it. And the city heard about it, and they're having this special meeting, coming up, and the
Mhm.
supervisors are going to do a revote here. But at any rate, what the state and the county want to do is put in a homeless facility where the Holiday Inn is, that would have about 140 units or so. The problem from La Mesa's point of view, it'd be great if this was for the 50 homeless people in La Mesa, but they want to bring in the homeless people in the unincorporated parts of the county in Spring Valley and Lakeside primarily. It's unclear whether it would include any La Mesa folks. And from what I'm hearing, there isn't going to be a requirement, for them to be clean and sober or anything. So I was going to ask you in general your ideas about addressing La Mesa's homeless problem, but also if you can address specifically what you think about that particular proposal.
I haven't had much time to look at it. I did see it. I saw the basics of that. I was waiting for the city council meeting, more information to come out on that.
Mhm.
But my
That's
initial
fine.
response is homeless people are an issue everywhere. It's not just a La Mesa problem.
Right.
And everyone wants to take care of the homeless people, but no one really wants them in their backyard. And
Yeah.
I think helping people, bottom line, I think that's important. If they're La Mesa people, if they're not, from La Mesa, you know, my initial reaction, as long as we're helping people, as long as we're doing what we need to do to help people, I think that's a good thing. I need to see more details on it, obviously, but my initial reply is if people are being taken care of, if they're getting the help they need, be clean, be sober, get back on their feet, I'm all for that. I have no problems with that. That's something I think is something we as a society really need to focus on, helping our neighbors, whether they be next door, down the street, or the next city over. I think that's a very important, very good quality to have.
Yes, it is. All right. The pandemic has impacted many residents severely. The city recently gave out $1 million in CARES funding to residents, or to businesses rather, and 600,000 to renters. The application period closed early because they had so many responses. If they get additional CARES Act funds, what would your priority be for how those should be spent?
There's no right answer to this. You could say more goes to business. You could say more goes to the people. There's really strong arguments either way. You give money to the businesses, they provide tax revenue for the city, they provide jobs, or if you give people, money to the people, it keeps them from getting evicted. So there's really no right answers to who gets what. But I think there is a wrong answer here. The money, the city kept some of that money for themselves. And I'll be honest, I don't know if there's a requirement for the city to keep a percentage. I can't imagine there is, but I think 100% of that money that the city got should have went either to businesses or to the people. The city has a nice reserve fund for emergency purposes.
Mhm.
This is not an emergency. I don't know what is. So if the city, if the city needed money to pay for, sterilization things, tests, or whatever, dip into the reserves. Use that money. Every single penny we get to help people, whether it be a business or a person, should go to those people or those
Yeah,
businesses.
not
It should be
reimbursing the city for its costs. Okay.
right. That's to me that's ridiculous. And but I think that's the only wrong answer here is for the city to keep a single penny of that money.
Can you speak to the issue of police funding? There are some people who have been calling for either defunding the police or reallocating some police resources into things like, different alternative responses to homelessness, to mental illness, calls involving those sorts of things, while others say, gosh, after the riot, we need more police protection, not less. What are your views on that?
That's something we really have to take a look at. I believe the more money that you put into a community, the better. One of the long-standing complaints I've heard about the La Mesa Police Department is how much money they're getting, the military items they have, and if they really need those. And that's something that I'd want to take a look at to see if that's something that, if it's a good use of money. The homeless task force that was being presented, some of that money for that funding for that was going to come from the police department. They were trying to get money from grants to cover that. If it didn't cover all the cost of the task force, then some of that money would come from the police force. And that's basically, in essence, defunding the police. It's not, you're not dismantling the police force. You're just taking the money from this area and putting it over here. And I think the police right now are being used as a catch-all, and I'm not a big fan of that, where they have to respond to so many different things. If you take away some of the responses they do, especially for the homeless people, that frees them up. It lets them focus more on being a police officer and not being a social worker. They were hired to be a police officer. They weren't hired to be social workers. So I think they really need to focus on that. If we could have other people do other things as far as the homeless are concerned, for example, it's a good thing. If we could take more money and put it back in the community, that's a good thing. So that's something we really need to look at. I want to look at other cities about our size and about with the same safety level as us. La Mesa overall is a safe city. And I want to look at how other cities our size, not dollar amounts, because you can't compare dollars to dollars from one city to another, but percentage, like how much of a percentage of our budget goes to the police force and how much of a percentage goes to, other aspects, and then see if that's in line. If we see something that's way out of line, then we need to ask, why is that being spent? And we need to resolve that either way. So that's something we really need to take a look at.
Super. Mark, can you tell us what kind of leadership experience or management or business experience you have that might be relevant to serving on the city council and addressing its issues? And also, we've asked every candidate this. Can you disclose if you have any ties that would be potential conflicts of interest, any business interests or other things that might potentially have you recused from a vote? And if so, what is it?
No conflicts of interest. I'm just a normal guy. I'm not taking any money from any developers. I'm not taking any money from big corporations. Any donations I get are for, friends and people who support me within the community. I think that's very important to have, so you're not having to listen to other people. Because even if legally, you don't have a conflict of interest, if you're taking money from a certain individual or a certain organization that deals within the city, that presents the idea that you have a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
I have none of that. What I do is I work for a big telecommunications company, one of the largest within the nation. I handle, really my primary role is to handle the federal complaints, the high-level executive complaints. So I work with people across the country, work with many different departments, coordinate, positive resolutions for the issues that are brought to within my company. It really does involve a lot of work, a lot of thinking outside the box, staying within policy, and really making sure everybody is happy as much as possible. There's times where, not everyone's going to be happy, but compromise is a big part of that. And I think that's an important aspect for anyone to have, the ability to compromise.
Yeah, it is.
Especially in politics, you're not going to get what you want all the time. That's if that happens, you should go buy a lottery ticket.
No one wants to see a bunch of people up there fighting and bickering over everything.
Right.
they want solutions, I think.
Exactly. So you have to realize you have the same goal. You, person A, person B, they have the same goal. You just have to realize how to get there. And that's really what I do all day, every day, figuring out how to get to that resolution. And I have a lot of experience. I've been doing this for a long time. It's something that I think I'm pretty good at, and I think will come in handy within the city council.
Okay. Well, Mark, I'm going to let you have the final word today in your closing statements. Go ahead, and if there's anything else that we didn't ask you about that you want to get out there, now's your time to say it, and then just give us your best case for why you think you're the best one to represent La Mesa on the city council.
Well, definitely, and again, thank you. This really is it's an uncharted time for our city, with all the recent events, both locally and globally, that really have hit us hard in many different ways. Our city has a strenuous path ahead of us, and I I ask for your trust and support in navigating this path. I know I'm really at a huge disadvantage here running against people who are going to vastly outspend me and make obligations to large outside groups and big political organizations. You know, these obligations mean they really have to listen to what these organizations want, even if it means going against what the people of La Mesa want. I'm running this campaign from my heart, running it on behalf of the people like you who call La Mesa home. I think the voice of the people should always be listened to, and the actions of the city council should be based on that. And it shouldn't be based on personal agendas that go against what the people of La Mesa wants. You know, it's my opinion that the leadership and experience we've had for the last 4 years has really led us to where we are now. And it's time for a reset. You know, it's time for a fresh set of eyes to address the issues that the city of La Mesa faces today. So again, my name is Mark Papenfuss, and I ask for your support on this upcoming election.
Very good. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for joining us and sharing your views.
Thank you.
Viewers, there are 6 candidates running. If you go to our website at eastcountymagazine.org and you click into our communities, our La Mesa communities section or our politics section, you'll be able to find videos of all of them, 3 who did the debate or the forum, and 2 others that did individual Zoom interviews like this. We'll also be airing this on KNSJ Radio 89.1 FM Descanso. So with that, I just want to thank you, Mark, and encourage everybody out there. If you're not already registered to vote, you can go to sdvote.com. There's still time. Check your registration, vote, and we will see you all on Election Day.